I guess I'm going to start by just giving you a little update on the program and where we are. We, at the beginning of, 2021, we started to really try to implement a digital infrastructure in the program. So we have moved to using a database for collecting and storing information. We're doing all of our phenotyping on phones and tablets, syncing those with the database. That's one of the reasons why we want to do this, is I want to be able to pull that data in. I want to be able to make decisions faster so that we can move materials to the people that it needs to go to in a time efficient manner. We starting right when I got here, one of the first things I did was to start to genotype all of the materials in the program. So when we select individual lines, individual head rows, those end up going into first year yield trials. Those are unreplicated trials. Usually we were usually pulling out about 500. I've increased that to about 1,000. We're using some sparse testing approaches where those first year entries are being planted here at the station. They're being some of them are being planted in Blacksburg, and some of them are being planted in Illinois. They also get genotyped. So everything, when I got here, we genotyped the entire soft wheat program, all of our seed inventory, and everything that we had put in the field for the last about 3 years. And then this year, so every additional year, we get those 500 to 1,000 new lines that are entering the program for yield testing. All of those get genotyped. And so now we're using that information, which is this high density genomic information, for basically all of my decision making processes now. So from the perspective of advancement, when I'm going from making decisions on first year yield trials to what to move forward in the second year yield trials to what to move forward in the regional trials, a lot of those decisions are actually based on both the phenotypic information, but I allow that genotypic information to be used so that I can borrow information from relatives, sister lines, that kind of thing. Another advancement that we've made recently is we're using that genotypic information for all parental decisions. So now what we do is I genotype all of my potential crosses that I could make in silico. So those are all done on the computer. I get, so let's say I have 100 or 150 parents. I then make all of those potential crosses, which ends up being tens of thousands of potential crosses. I genotype them in silico, and then I can use genomic prediction to get an estimate of what the expected family mean is from that cross. And so then I can start to use that information to make my parent decisions. And what I do is I basically use a selection index that is constructed from yield, test weight, various disease susceptibility, and eventually, hopefully, starting to put some quality measures in there. We've got a couple of a graduate student and a postdoc who are both working on how genotype by environment interactions and the genetics themselves lead to differential response, meaning like, why do some things do good in some places and not in others? But one of the core pieces of that is that we're interested in knowing how do we select for quality along with all of these other measures. So really, eventually, I'd like to get to the point where I'm making crossing decisions based on a monetary value as opposed to on all of these, various, because it's a high dimensional problem. You've got yield, test weight, a bunch of different agronomic things, maturity, and then you're also trying to incorporate all these disease resistances in, various measures of quality, and then you've got multiple target environments and multiple types of products that you're trying to produce for those environments. Sometimes you're looking at producing early materials, sometimes late materials. So we're trying to work on how do we build a unified system for decision making based on these high dimensional genomic information phenotypes from throughout the years, and then have that be incorporated in both our crossing decisions and our advancement decisions. I'll talk a little bit about some of the varieties. Briefly, Hilliard has been a staple. This was released in 2015, I believe, although Carl might correct me on one of these. That was one of Carl's releases about, like I said, about 7-8 years ago. It's been widely successful. It's grown as far north as Canada. I believe it also sees a significant amount of acreage in, down south as far as North Carolina, maybe more southerly, I don't know. In Missouri, okay, yeah. So very broadly adapted. It's still in the public, at least on the public side, it's still used as a standard for various things, including yield, rust resistance, both stripe and leaf, as well as various other agronomic qualities. Liberty's 5658 was released 2019, I believe. This one didn't see as widespread adoption. Just kind of informally, I've observed that it tends to be a little bit more variable across environments. It looks wonderful here, but we've seen it in a couple of places in the OVT where it doesn't look as good. 13 VTK 429-3. This one was released in 2020. I think this was this your last release? Yeah. This was Carl Griffey, Dr. Carl Griffey, my predecessor. This was his last release, 13 VTK 429-3. It's also known now today as Southern Harvest 7222. So that one was licensed out. Excellent yield, a little bit moderate to late season, and good resistance to leaf rust and excellent resistance to powdery mildew. Many of you may have noticed, if you've had a chance to get out into the fields recently, that we got a lot of mildew this year. It's so bad that we've got a lot of lines that are, the heads are full of mildew. It's in the awns and on the glooms. And so it's been a nice year as a breeder to be able to go out and say, yeah, I can pick the ones that don't get mildew, or at least don't get them that bad. So this one was released in 2020, excellent mildew resistance and good yield. So my first release, 17W75, I didn't make this cross, obviously. This came from Carl, but it's performed very well in the program. It is second place in the 3-year average in the official variety trial. It has excellent scab resistance. It's a little early, high test weight, and good leaf rust and 0 powdery mildew, which has been wonderful. It really looks wonderful here this year. So we're really excited about this one. That was released this spring. Speaking of first releases, so 15 VDH FHB MAS 38-01. This variety we also released this one this year. Very early, shorter. This is even, I believe it's about as early as Laverne. It might be a day earlier, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's about as early as Laverne and short, so really good for a double cropping system. It tends to do better moving south than it does moving north. We're happy about this one. It's done quite well. I think it came in 5th in the official variety test last year. So we're excited about that one. These are 2 sister lines. They come from the same cross, where we were incorporating. One other thing, scab resistance. So 3801 has excellent scab resistance, has FHB1, which has been incorporated into a lot of the lines in the program. We put a really heavy emphasis on it. One, because it reduces scab. There's evidence that it reduces spread of scab in the field, and so we've really put a lot of emphasis on it, and it's something that I think that that growers are looking for now. So 3801, 2515, and 3313 all have FHB1. The source is from I believe it's a Maryland line.
Yeah. Has an 7840.
Yeah, and it's Ning 7840 in it. Yeah, and so these two are sisters. They're a top cross to Hilliard. 2515 has good scab resistance, good performance. 3313 is onless. It has excellent performance. It did, I think, in the 2-year average. Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 in the 2-year average in the OVT, so it did very well. Good scab resistance. This is a little mid-season. Very excited about that. So this is the third soft wheat we released this year. So releases this year are 17W75, 3801, and 3313.
What's the mechanism for release?
Say again?
How are they going to be released?
They're all, we're all looking, license, private license, all 3 of them, yeah. However, I'm really excited about, and I think I'll just skip on down to it here. So these 2 lines, 16 VDH, SRW 03023 and 018, these are 2 sister lines. We have one onless and one ond. This one was, 023 was evaluated in the Uniform Eastern Nursery across 19 locations in 2021, and it came in first, average across that. Its sister line, 018, was put into the Uniform Eastern, no, excuse me, the Uniform Southern Nursery across 19 locations moving south. It came in first across that, that trial. So I think we're looking at something that is very broadly adapted. It's got good agronomics, good test weight, and we're hoping that, I'm hoping to release one of these 2 as a public, is my intention. I put this one that was in the Southern, is now in the Eastern this year to see how it does. So I'm hoping that we can show that we've got good adaptation. For a little bit more information, we have a set of, which are just sitting under a water bottle over there, but we've got a set of just some simple tables, the top lines in the OVT as well as in the Uniform Southern. And so if you're curious about how they perform, I encourage you to pick one of those up. So yeah, we're hoping that one of these ends up being released as a public next year. My only misgiving on these ones is they are just moderate on scab. We don't have super great scab resistance in these. But we've seen here in Virginia, at least the last 2 years, that we've had, really low scab incidence the last 2 years. And I don't know, I think that the use of Maravicase, I can never pronounce that, has really kind of reduced the emphasis on scab a little bit. So I think that these can still be successful, even though they're only about, kind of middle of the pack when it comes to resistance. 025 is another line that we are pretty happy about. This one is, there's private company interest in this one. We may end up releasing this one next year. We've got a small increase of it. 15 VTK 1-101 was excellent in 2020. Didn't do quite as good in 2021, but I'm hopeful that it looks wonderful this year. It has excellent mildew resistance. It's got good leaf rust resistance, and again, it's about moderate on scab. But so I'm hopeful, and I personally just I like the way it looks. So I'm hopeful that it does well this year. I don't know that this one's bound for release yet, but we'll see how it does. So the other ones I want to talk about, these are a couple of sister lines. They both showed very strong performance last year, especially 19W29. So we're hopeful on this. It has a little bit more susceptibility, not susceptibility, but it's only moderately resistant to rust. And then let's see, 31, 143. There's a couple others back here I'm really excited about, but I don't want to drag everybody into the field. We've got 2 lines. There's 3 lines actually. Well, 4 technically. So we've got a line 426 That line has FHB1. It's onless. It's got a nice waxy coat, so it's very blue. And that one performed excellent. It was the top performer in my year 2 trials. So I'm very excited about that one. There's another one, 1915, that we've got. It came in second in my prelim. So we're looking at that one. Also very excited. And then there's 2 other sister lines that have reasonable scab performance, excellent mildew resistance, excellent leaf rust resistance, and they're very similar. In fact, I'm not so certain they're not the same line. So, and with that, I guess I'll just take some questions.